Right, here we go. Take two. This is hopefully going to be about a half-an-hour video, a bit more realistic for people to be doing at home, with the magic circle. And I'll throw out suggestions if you don't have a magic circle of what you can use whilst we're doing these exercises. But anything, so your overball or anything that you can press and use resistance with your hands. So I'm going to squeeze my heels together, curl my toes under, and I'm still trying to keep my thighs together. So my feet are in a small V. Take the circle in front of the chest. And I really want you to wrap the fingers around the pads to feel as though you're stretching the back of the wrists, but also it stops the elbows from locking out. And we're just going to squeeze the circle and release. So nice slow squeezes and release. Remember to breathe. Let's breathe in, squeeze and release. And then we're going to do 3 short pulses. So we go pulse, pulse, and pulse, keeping those fingers wrapped and release. From there, we're going to repeat with the circle overhead. So let's just reach the circle up and then melt the shoulder blades down the back. Wrapping those fingers again, we're going to squeeze and release. And again, think about the elbows closing towards each other and release. Last one, we squeeze and release. And we've got our 3 short pulses. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze and release. Then from there, we're going to roll down through our upper body, but I want you to keep the pelvis vertical. So I'm lifting up and over, lifting the back of my neck as my chin drops down. And I'm going to roll down to the top of my waistband, but really focus on trying to keep the hips pressing forwards. And then I'm going to roll all the way back up again. So I don't want those hips to fold. Breathe in and breathe out as we roll down just through the spine. We don't want the pelvis to come into it. Keep those hips open, don't let them fold. And then rolling all the way back up again. And breathe out. I'd like you to let that out breath last the whole of the way down as we roll so that we can effectively mobilize through our spine. Take a breath in at the bottom and a long breath out the whole way up with the circle. Perfect. From there, we're going to take the circle down to the side of the hip. Make sure you haven't got it too high. So down to the side of the hip and take the other arm out. Wrap those fingers around again and we're going to squeeze and release. And squeeze and release. Are you still squeezing your heels together? Squeeze and release. And then we're going to do 3 pulses. So we go squeeze, squeeze, squeeze and release. And then I'm going to press down through my circle and I'm going to turn towards my outstretched arm and I'm going to twist through my spine, feeling a lovely stretch of this shoulder that's holding onto the circle. And I'm going to rotate back into the middle. And again, breathe in. Breathe out. Press through the circle and open up. Back into the middle. Let's do one more of those because they're nice. We press down and we rotate. And then back into the middle. Take the circle to the other side. This is the last one on kneeling when your knees are starting to feel it. Wrap the fingers and again we squeeze and release. And again squeeze and release. Last one, squeeze and release. Then we've got our 3, 2, 1 and release. Then a light press, reach those fingers round and we rotate, turning your nose as far away from the circle as you can and then rotate back into the middle. Let's breathe with that rotation. Turn your t-shirt to the side of the room and then back into the middle, releasing the circle. Last one, press through the circle and we rotate and then back into the middle and lower the hand down. I'm going to come into standing just because my knees can't take much more. So into standing, we're going to take the circle behind us now, but I want your hands to be, rather than wrapping around the pads, the fingers are going to be facing down. They're longitudinal on those pads. So just working on the back of the arms. Let's come into that small V with our feet again, thinking about pressing down equally through the base of the big toe, little toe and the heel. Take the circle out behind you, and we're going to press into the circle. Not much movement will happen. And then we release. The circle stays still. And again, we press and release. Think about the top of the head, reaching up to the ceiling as we press and release. There's hardly any movement going on. 3 pulses. We go press, 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 and release. And then we're going to take the circle up overhead. We're still in our V position, and we're going to side bend. So I want you to think about reaching up and over, back up, and we're going to reach up and over to the other side, and back up. We're going to add in some rotation. So we're going to side bend. Then I want you to drive the circle forward, circle through the ribs, side bend to the other side, and restack. And to the other side, we side bend, up and over. We circle those ribs round, back into our side bends, and up. Then we're going to go backwards. So we side bend, we're going to look up at the circle, and we're going to extend back and circle into the other side bend, and back up into standing. One more to the other side. So lift the circle up, side bend, look through the middle of the circle if you can. Rotate backwards with the rib cage, and back into the middle. And lower your circle down. You're just going to bend the knees, come down onto the mat. Give them a piece of paper. And I'd like you lying on your backs on the mat. We're going to pop the circle between our thighs. You don't want the circle at the knee joint, so it needs to be just above, towards you from the knees. We're going to take our hands. And I'd like your hands on top of each other with the elbows down into the mat. And I want you to really think about pressing the elbows down into the mat. Make sure that the hands aren't shoving your chin forwards. So really try and take the hands down under the base of the neck so that your chin is allowed to look up towards the ceiling. And then from there, we press the elbows down, and we're going to squeeze the circle and release. But as you release, I don't want you to fall off that big toe. And again, we press on the base of the big toe, and we release. There's a subtle shift at the ankle rather than a rolling of the feet. Again, we press, driving down through the big toe, and release. And we've got our 3 pulses. 3, 2, 1, and release. And then from there, keep pressing those elbows down into the mat. Squeeze your circle. We're going to lift the knees up and tap the toes down. And again, we lift and lower. Remember to breathe. We lift up and lower. We're going to lift up and hold. So we lift and hold, pressing those arms down into the mat. We're going to squeeze and release. And again, squeeze and release. Remembering to breathe. Squeeze and release. 3 pulses. 3, 2, 1, and release. A light squeeze. And then I want you to float your knees to one side. So I'm going to lift under my hip so that my knees stay level and I can keep my thigh pressing into the circle. And I'm going to roll back onto both hips equally. And the other side, so I have to lift under my hip so that my thigh stays against the circle. Now you're not going to get your legs all the way down to the side. And then we lift back, up and over. One more in each direction. So we lift under the hip, squeezing down, pressing down to its opposite elbow, and back into the middle, and lift under the hip, squeezing through the top thigh and back into the middle. So we're going to come to the side again. So I want you to squeeze, we lift under the hip to take the legs now all the way down to the side. And then from there, I just want you to lift that top foot a bit more to really be able to press down through your circle. And then we're going to rotate through the spine. So I'm going to lift my elbow up towards the ceiling and I rotate towards the circle. And then I lower my upper body back down to the mat. And I continue at this continuously press through the circle as I rotate through my spine and lower. One more on this side, pressing through that circle and lower down, and then back into the middle. Lift onto the other hip, keeping that top foot high. And again, we lift up and rotate. And down. And again. And lower. Last one. And lower down. And then lift those knees back into the middle and place the feet back down, close in towards your bottom. With the hands still under the base of the neck, pressing down through your elbows, through your upper arms, we can reach shoulder bridge. We're going to roll through the pelvis, squeezing our circle, and press all the way up towards the ceiling. Take a breath in there. And as you breathe out, try and leave the pelvis where it is for as long as possible as we roll all the way down, sending the front of the t-shirt long. And again, dig down through the base of that big toe as we roll all the way up. You want to make sure that your toes aren't pointing out to the sides. You want to make sure that the toes are parallel to the heels. Last one. Lovely. And then we're going to take the circle out from the thighs, those thighs are going to rest. And I think let's hold the circle. Let's take the circle overhead, but not so that the circle is on the floor. So lift it slightly off the floor, but here, I'd like you to think of the elbows pulling in towards you, squeezing gently through the circle so that the elbows are actually facing up towards the ceiling. And then from there, I'm going to straighten my legs to start off with, and then I'm going to take my right leg and I'm going to lift it up towards the ceiling. Now, I'm going to bend my knee slightly, otherwise I feel there's too much pulling in the back of my leg. But you can go with a straight leg if that works for you. So from there, keep the elbows looking up towards the ceiling as you circle across the body, down and up. Keep those elbows magnetizing towards each other, cross, down and up. Last one on this side. Down and up. Lovely. Let's straighten the leg and lower that leg down towards the floor. And the arms working really hard. Elbows drawing in and up, facing the ceiling. Other side. Lifts up. Give that knee a little bit of bend if you need to. We're going to come across the body. Down, round and back to center. Watch those elbows don't roll out to the sides. And over, last one, across, down, back, straight to the knee as much as you possibly can. And lower that leg all the way down. And then let's just take the circle up towards the ceiling. Good. So from there, we're going to come into kind of a 100 style with the circle. So again, I'm going to wrap my fingers around the circle, pressing my hands into the circle. I'm going to really think about trying to straighten my legs and press the back of the knees down into the mat. And I'm really going to point the ball of my big toe and little toe, but more for me, the big toe needs to point down solidly towards the floor. The circle's lowering down and I'm lifting up and over into my C-shaped curve. The legs are staying on the floor, pressing out through the back of the knees. And I'm going to pulse, press my circle and release. And again, press and release. Keep driving the big toe down, press and release. And then from there, I'm going to take the circle above and I'm going to squeeze and release. And again, squeeze and release. Last one, squeeze and release. And 3 pulses. Squeeze, 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 and release. And lower all the way down to the mat. Just let the circle go from here. And just have a couple of breaths there whilst I turn my page. Fantastic. Coming into our roll-ups. So with our roll-ups, we're going to use the circle to help find find the connection that we need to help us really stabilize through these legs, which will really help articulate the spine and the hips in our roll down. So I've got the magic circle horizontally with the pads in between the big toe knuckles. And I'm going to squeeze my circle. And I'm really going to flex through my feet and squeeze the circle. Try not to let your toes go mad. Keep the toes quiet. So I'm going to roll up and over, and then from there, keep squeezing your circle. Keep pressing the heels towards the end of the mat. Open up through those hips. Keep squeezing through the circle. And lifting the arms up and over. Take a breath in. Can you let your out breath last the whole way as you roll up and over? Still squeezing that circle. And again, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Heels reach towards the end of the mat. Reaching up and over, finding that solid base through the legs. Pressing the back of the knees down into the floor. Remember, just roll to wherever you feel is comfortable for you. The goal being to try and keep the back of the legs down on the mat. Keep the ankles flexed rather than making your way all the way down to the mat. Let's go for one more. Take your circle. And we're going to take the circle so it's lower than your bottom, but on the floor. And we're just going to have to hold around the top of the circle, because unless you've got really long arms that you can reach the pads, I definitely can only reach the rim of my circle, and my fingers get wrapped around the circle. So if you're not keen on rolling over, I would like you to just think about trying to pull your circle apart and just lift your bottom up and down. This is the hard bit, the rollover. So we're just going to lift up and down. So you don't want to lift the bum by swinging the legs in. You want to keep the angle the same between the legs and the torso as you lift up. Keep those thighs away from you. Keep pulling the circle out and rolling all the way back down. Keep the thighs away from you. And down we go. And again, pull that circle apart to find that shoulder connection. Lift up and over, keeping the thighs away from your face, and rolling back down. One more of those. Pull the circle, lift up and over. And then imagine I'm pulling your feet behind you as you slowly lower down onto the mat. Fantastic. Keep those knees a bend. Let's hold a hand around each knee and just draw circles. Lift your head up or keep it down, whatever feels good. Oh, okay, stomach series. So for the next sequence of exercises, just know that you can either choose to have the upper body up, or you can do exactly the same movements with the legs, but keeping your upper body down. So choose what is best for your body. So we're going to hold the circle over the shins. And again, you're going to wrap the fingers round and give the circle a bit of a squeeze. So I'm going to lift the circle overhead and reach one leg away. So this is where if you want to come into upper body up, come up with your upper body and actually lift your leg a bit higher so that you feel like all the weight is going down to your waistband. And you're going to bring the circle over the knees and change the legs. Take the circle out and change the legs. Circle go out and we change. Circle overhead and change the knees. Oh, circle overhead and change the knees. Right, moving on. Let's bring the knees in towards us. Again, try and come up onto that waistband, or you've got both of you've got the upper body down. Again, whatever works for you. We're going to reach out and in. Remember not to take the legs too low, because we want to keep that tailbone lifted off the mat. Last one of those. Reach and back and lower the upper body down. Just have a little break there for a second. Okay, for the next one, we're going to take the circle just around the base of the skull, and it's going to help us to curl up slightly and give us a bit of neck support. So we're coming in to our upper body curl. I'm going to take my right shoulder towards my left knee and point the other leg away. And I'm going to try and lift up, up, up. I don't want to be leaning, I want to be or leaning that way. I want to be lifting up to rotate to the other side. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. One more on each side. Try and get the back elbow towards the corner of the mat. And lower yourself down. And just have a stretch out. Let the circle go for a second. Focus on the breath. There you go. Take the circle. Really bend through the ankles. Reach the heels towards the end of the mat. We're rolling up. And sitting tall on our sit bones. So I'd really like you to focus here. It's really tough when you're a bit tight through the back of the legs, but we're trying to find that strength to increase our mobility. So I'd really like you to try and keep straight legs and try and really press the back of the knees down into towards the mat, as close as you can get them. We're going to take the circle above the head, and I want you to lift up, 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 up towards the ceiling. We're going to twist to one side and back into the middle. And then we twist to the other side, turn that t-shirt as much as you can, and back into the middle. I lost my wrapping of my circle, so wrap those fingers round again. Press the circle and twist into the middle, and twist. Back into the middle. Reach that circle forwards, and I just want you to roll down through the upper body and roll all the way up. Let's twist to one side, join those two movements together, and then back into the middle, and twist, middle, and reach up and over as though you're diving your spine into itself. Then articulate back up. Last one. And then rolling all the way up and lower that circle down. Fantastic. Okay, onto your sides. We're going to be on our propped elbow with straight legs. But I would like you to really focus on trying to bring this bottom elbow in and under your rib cage to help yourself kind of stay on the back line, on the back, into the back, or into the back of your t-shirt. You're going to take the circle and we're going to press down through the circle. What you don't want to happen is you don't want to press through the circle and then roll the rib cage forward. So try and stay in the back of your t-shirt as you press the circle, and then we're going to lift the top leg and lower. And again, keep pressing down through the circle and lower. Think about dragging that elbow in towards you as you go through your leg kicks. Stick to my promise and try and keep it to 30 minutes long. We've got another 7 minutes. Lift to hip height. We're going to glide forwards and you're going to glide backwards. Try not to let that rib cage come forwards and try and keep pressing down through the circle. It's really hard to keep that connection as the leg goes back. So go forwards and then backwards, try and stay on the back of your t-shirt. And forwards and backwards. The last one, forwards and backwards and lower down. Take yourself round and onto the other side. So again, find that position with the underarm. You're really bringing it under your rib cage and you're feeling as though you're dragging it underneath you. Whoop. So into the back of your t-shirt, you go with your rib cage, press down through the circle, and we lift up and low. I'm going to go with pointed toes, lifting up and down. I'm pressing gently, but constantly down through my circle. Lift up and down and up and down. Legs to hip height, and we're going to glide forwards and back and try as hard as you can to keep the pressure through the circle. That's really hard. Glide forwards and backwards. One more in each direction. Lovely. And then I'm going to roll round onto my front. So I'm going to finish off on our fronts with one leg kick. So if you've got your circle, the circle's going to be on the floor horizontally underneath you. And I want the inside of your elbows to be on either side of the pads, and we're squeezing those pads together. So squeeze the pads together. Still feel as though you're dragging the elbows in towards you slightly for our one leg kick. We're going to hover the knees, keeping the legs straight off the mat. Squeeze your circle with your elbows, and we go kick, kick, lower. Kick, kick, lower. So I'm trying to glue or keep my knees glued together. I'm thinking about that constant connection through the magic circle. Look forwards more. Showing my t-shirt off to the wall in front of me. Last one, kick, kick and lower, and then lower down out of that hover. Take the circle behind you. And again, like we did with our tricep work at the start, my fingers are just going to go long ways down the pads rather than wrapping around. So from there, I'm going to turn onto my cheeks. I'm looking towards the camera. I'm going to find my hover through my legs. And then from there, I'm going to kick in, kick, kick. And then I'm going to lift up, reach the circle, look towards the wall in front of me. And then with the circle, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Pull the circle back in onto the other cheek. Kick, keep the hover, 2, 3, and reach, 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 reach. Show your t-shirt off to the person in front of you. And I lift, lift, and lift. Pull the circle back in onto the other side. Kick, 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 and squeeze through the circle, lifting up, 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 up. 3, 2, 1, and lower onto the other cheek. Last one. Hover, kick, keep the knees hovered. 2, 1, and reach. And lower down onto the other side. Oh, pop your circle down for a second. And let's just take our hands under our shoulders. Turn the eyes down onto the mat. We're going to press up onto the knees, keeping that long line from the knees, hips and shoulders. So I want to think about lifting the rib cage up towards the ceiling. And I'm going to press the heels back towards the edge of the mat. And then I'm going to lower this whole unit back down to the mat without bananaing through my back. And again, I lift the back of my ribs up towards the ceiling. I press my heels back. And I lower. Ooh, one more of those. Rib cage up. Press the heels back. And lower all the way down. Let's press through each fingertip. Last one, but only half of one to come up. Up. And then I'd like you to press the pelvis up towards the ceiling. And with straight legs, walk those legs all the way in towards you. Let's find that narrow V stance with the feet. And then when you're ready, keep the upper body curl whilst you find your vertical pelvis. Press those hips forwards. And then we roll all the way up. Fantastic. Take the arms out to the side. And breathe out. And again, breathe in. and out. Last one, breathe in and out. Yourself a big clap. Made it this far. Fantastic.